Hi, we're back again with more Mothman. The idea of a supernatural creature terrorizing West Virginia is cool and all, but the Mothman was probably more mundane. It's important not to get swept away by stories of aliens, Bigfoot, and the Mothman. There is strangeness in the world, but fortunately and unfortunately, um, most monsters have rational explanations. Audubon, a nonprofit organization dedicated to conserving birds, has an article on their website about the Mothman. It says its partisans maintain that it is. Let me start that over. Its partisans maintain that it is an alien, a prophet of doom, or an extra-dimensional spirit monster heralding the age of Aquarius. And yet the Mothman is fake. Nothing overly fantastical, but a bird. Let me set the scene a little bit, then explain why the Mothman is a bird and not anything alien. From 1966 to 1967, the people of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, were plagued by a monster, the Mothman. Now, brief overview of the important details because I've already talked about this. What is considered to be the first Mothman sighting occurred November 12th, 1966. 5 men were digging a grave when they saw what was later labeled the Mothman. The second sighting occurred on November 15th, 1966. The sighting was by Roger and Linda Scarberry, as well as Steve and Mary Mullet. Both sightings describe the Mothman as being man-like, 6 or 7 feet tall with a 10-foot wingspan, gray, and most notably it had glowing red eyes. While these are the most notable sightings and largely the most credible, during this time period there were also hundreds of other reports. What is important to know also is the location and the time period all of these sightings occurred. And the vast majority of sightings came from what is known as the TNT area. The TNT area was once a munitions manufacturing factory abandoned after World War II, but became a chemical and toxic waste dump, and then became a forest preserve. As far as time period goes, the Mothman sightings occurred from 1966 to 1967, during the height of the Cold War. So, the U.S. was being pumped full of propaganda and paranoia. That fear no doubt manifested in cryptid monsters. It's a bird, it's a plane, it's a bird. The most likely bird is probably a sandhill crane or barred owl. Dr. Robert L. Smith, Associate Professor of Wildlife in WVU's Division of Forestry, back in 1966, was the first man to claim that the creature was a sandhill crane. He said it stands an average of 5 feet and has gray plumage. A feature of its appearance is a bright red flash area around each eye. It has an average wingspan of about 7 feet. It fits the bill. I still find that the sandhill crane is not as likely as an owl, though, because the Mothman is described as not having any neck. Cranes are all necks. Also, plus the bird is just kind of rare to the area. I think it was an owl, specifically the barred owl. The Scarberries, when asked to draw what they saw, depicted an owl in an aggressive pose. Audubon's Mothman article also features Joe Nickel, an author and investigator with the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry. He believes that the Mothman was an owl and has some damning evidence to back it up. This includes the fact that owls have eye shine when you point a light at them in the dark. He states in the article that barred owls have a dramatic crimson eye shine due to the amount of blood vessels around the eye. There are more details about the Mothman's appearance, like color. Mothman is consistently described as gray or white, so the bird was probably albino. Both species have recorded cases of albinism. This condition causes each of the birds to have white feathers and red eyes, regardless of eye shine or not. Whatever species of bird this was, it was also living on a toxic waste dump. So knowing this, there's a high likelihood that it was mangy, sickly, and maybe a bit mutated. Toxins could have given it a man-like appearance. Of course, you may still hold on to hope that the Mothman was the Mothman, a supernatural being. It's a bird, it's a plane, it is in fact Mothman. For one, the size of the birds mentioned don't entirely match the description of the Mothman. Owls are quite small. Season 4, Episode 5 of the show Monster Quest is about Mothman. Joe Nickell, who is featured in the aforementioned article, is also featured here. He conducts a perception experiment with painted wood cutouts of various sizes with bike reflectors for eyes. 3 different Mothman figures are used. A 2-foot high cutout, a 4-foot high cutout, and an 8-foot high cutout. The subjects in the experiment were driven down a dark road. The cutouts were illuminated for a brief moment, and then afterwards the subjects had to guess the various sizes of the cutouts. Estimated sizes varied wildly. Quoting Nickell, "It's important to note, however, that no fewer than 3 people on one of the targets doubled the size of it, so they're not necessarily to be trusted. It's also important to note that during the real sightings, the people were scared out of their wits. Fear impacts perception greatly." With that said, there are 100 reports, and not everyone could have been seeing an owl. Despite the number of reports, there is no physical proof. I find it quite easy to excuse because of that. As the saying goes, pictures or it didn't happen. Some sightings could have simply just been attention-seeking, as Audubon's article states, some honest, some the product of likely hoaxes. Maybe hallucinations. One report featured in the Mothman of Point Pleasant 2017 documentary, a man claimed that he awoke in the middle of the night to find the Mothman standing over him and he couldn't move. This sounds a lot to me like sleep paralysis. So, what's the verdict? As much as I want to believe that the Mothman was in fact real and supernatural, it's too easy to discredit as a bird, whether it be a sandhill crane or a barred owl. Just because the Mothman was probably not supernatural though, does not mean you can't have fun and love it. Monsters, after all, are a glimpse into the human subconscious and our deepest and darkest fears. That's it. No more Mothman. I'm done talking about the Mothman.